Okay, back gonna work on the truck. I got some things I want to do. I got a little bit greedy, I guess, the other day, excited, and I wanted to go out and drive it. So I adjusted my wastegates because it was hitting boost cut, and then you saw the last video, I took it out and did a pull in like 7 pounds. But my coolant temp sensor was broken because I did a plug check after my first time I took it out and drove it. And for some reason, like I break the coolant temp sensor all the time, like taking the plug out, the wrench, it finally breaks free and then the wrench hits the sensor. So I cracked the thing. Didn't really think much of it because it was cool at the time and I was just gonna go like real quick drive around the block. So what I did the pull and then I threw the belt. So I think the combination of the coolant temp sensor not working, my fan didn't turn on, I threw the belt, it wasn't spinning the water pump, ended up overheating. And it was like spit and smoke and coolant out everywhere. You can see there's like definitely was coolant kind of sprayed all over the place. So I ended up letting it cool down a little bit on the road, tried to get the belt back on, but I didn't have a tool for the tensioner and I was burning the crap out of my arms. You can probably see them. That one's a big one, like burned the crap out of it from the radiator. And I got frustrated, so I just decided to drive it home. It was literally like 2 or 3 blocks and it overheated a little bit, definitely. So what I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna put a new coolant temp sensor on there. I'm gonna go with the 3-wire sensor again. So if you're not familiar, the 98 Camaro sensor is a 3-wire sensor. It has 2 wires for the computer and then 1 goes to the gauge. So when I originally hooked it up, I snipped that wire out of there so I didn't have my analog gauge on the dash working, but I'm gonna add that back in there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut the Holley plug off or depin it, and then I'm going to solder a new 3-wire plug on there, and then I'll have one go out to my gauge. So I'll have the Terminator X dash digital gauge and I'll have the analog gauge. What I also want to do is use my new fancy little tool here. So I ended up getting this guy. It's a like AC hose crimper, so hydraulic and AC line hose. So I'm going to do my power steering lines with this thing. I've been wanting to get one of these for quite a while. So I finally pulled the trigger on it. Essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 2 power steering lines. I have one that's coming from the GM pump and then one that's coming from the Ranger, Ford Ranger. So what I'm going to do, the factory Ranger hose does thread into the pump, the GM pump, but it doesn't seal completely, so it leaks a little bit. So over the course of about a year, it ends up leaking all of the fluid out of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the GM and the Ford, cut and splice them together, and I got a little crimp terminal. We'll go through all that stuff. I also drove it for a long time with no fluid in it, with no power steering, so the pump, I think, is bad. The pulley wobbles, and I think that's why it threw the belt, because the pulley is wobbling, because it's never thrown a belt before. I wasn't really too worried about it. Like I said, I heard it squealing, but didn't really care that much because I have a spare. I knew I had a spare. So that one is tight. This one you can physically see it wobbling. So I think the bearings just started to go bad because there was no fluid in it. Swap it out and we'll be good. So this is a GM hose. You can see it has the O-ring on there. It's a little bit different fitting. So this one doesn't leak. This is the one from the Ranger, so it doesn't have the O-ring, a little bit of a different fitting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the rubber, and then I'm going to splice them together. Okay, fellers, I don't even know where I left off. It's actually a few days later from recording this, and I'm finishing it off. I have another video that I recorded today, mostly on the GoPro, driving the truck today. So I spent about 3 hours out driving today and found a couple things, fixed some things, and let's talk about what we got. So I did finish up, I did put a catch can on there. It's actually just a water bottle. I did find, oh, my light is dying. I did find a leak from the radiator, so I don't know if that's because of when it overheated the other day, but there is definitely a crack or something in the radiator and it's leaking. So that sucks, but other than that, I did get the 3-wire coolant temp sensor. That's what the red wire is. I didn't loom it yet, but the gauge is working. That's all good. While I was out driving today, this connection, I had it like taped up, so I'll probably crimp that one and heat shrink it. But that was for my fan, so I did pull over, and I heard that the fan was not running. So I caught it early. I only got up to like 210. So good catch on that one. Other than that, out for the drive today. I am going to have to relocate this wastegate. I'm going to have to tilt it up a little bit because it does hit when I turn too far. So it does clear, but then if I'm turning and I hit a bump, like if I'm making a right turn and I pull into a driveway, the tire hits the wastegate. And I'll probably end up ripping it off one of these days, but I'm just gonna cut it and then angle it up a little bit. I'm probably just gonna go ahead and take these, like add more to the wastegates. So I got it to about 9-10 pounds. I made some adjustments to the wastegates, but I got it to about 9 or 10. So I'm probably gonna spring it up to like 15 to 17 and then just leave it there with no controller. I'm not really gonna be racing this truck a whole lot. I want to take it to the track a couple times and just get some numbers from it, because that was always a goal, was to go 10s with this truck, and I feel like a good 15 to 17 pounds should do it, no problem. Other than that, I did do some driving today, so stay tuned for the next video. I'm going to edit both of them kind of back to back, so they might both be up like close to the same time. I worked on some interesting stuff with the Holley Terminator X and getting the launch control to work off of the brake pedal. It has a 12-volt brake switch on it, and did some stuff with that, so stick around. We'll talk about that one. Other than that, I'm pretty happy with this thing so far. Just got a lot of little piddly stuff yet, like I'm going to put the lights back in. I do have a lower valance down here. This TrueCool 40K Transcooler, this thing is a monster. I posted it on the A21 Bravo Facebook page, and when I was practicing the launch stuff, because I was trying to get on the two-step and I was like repeatedly doing it, I had to trans-temp up to 190, took it out on the highway and cruised it for a little bit and got it all the way back down to 129. Within like 5 miles. So the thing just rips. It works really well. So it's to the point now where I don't have to worry about trans temp. I don't have to worry about coolant temp. The same time I was monitoring it, the coolant temp came down low enough to where the fan actually turned off. I don't think that's ever happened before. So that's pretty good. I did add the, man, I'm on a roll here. I did add the narrow band, I did add the other wideband, so I have 2 banks now, 2 bank readings. So the driver's side wideband is hooked up to the Terminator, and the passenger side is hooked up to my gauge on the pillar. So I can read both banks. If I look at the 3.5-inch dash, I can see driver's side, and passenger side if I look at the pillar, and they're actually pretty close, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, it's getting there. I'll keep making a couple more videos for this thing. I know a lot of you guys are excited about this, and this is kind of how you found the channel. So glad that we have this thing back on it. Sorry, just a lot of talking. I'm going to go in and edit and eat some popcorn.